Hello YouTube, this is Morgan, Airspeed Prime here with my next Attack on Titan anime review. This one's going to be for Season 3, Episode 15, which is called Descent. And yeah, this was another really good episode. I say that because even though it has, I think a very, really kind of moment with, what I was talking about in my last review of very obviously Reiner isn't dead, but how they'd go about, I suppose, explaining why he isn't dead despite such a, up close, 20 thunder spears exploding, centimeters away from him. And the only damage that he has is that, the top of his head is blown off. And, that's crazy damage. That's a lethal blow on, any normal character. But really, that an explosion that big, that's all it did. Okay, the explanation is that he transferred his consciousness into the nervous system of the Titan. Fine, but really, that's the only damage that it actually did. It was one of the most, I think, silly moments that Attack on Titan has had. As much as it can have these kind of crazy kind of things, this was just that doesn't make any sense given the scene that they showed of the attack happening, and then this is the amount of damage that's done afterwards. Okay, you don't want to kill Reiner at this point in time, so why tease his death there when it's obviously not going to be the case? I think is the problem. It's setting up a big cliffhanger when you don't really need one if you're not actually going to commit to it. So, I think that's a criticism I have about this episode. It's just okay, so that whole bit with Reiner and it being the final battle, it wasn't actually. So that's second time at least they've kind of teased Reiner's going to be killed here, and it's not happened. Actually 3, because Mikas has stabbed him through the neck earlier on, an episode or 2 ago. So definitely it's kind of Reiner's just kind of surviving everything for some reason, but okay. Beyond that, I think this episode was really, really good. Them starting off with that flashback, and wait, what are they doing here? And then it's oh, there was a story behind Marco's death, and I thought this was really well done. Obviously, it incorporates Annie back into things, but it also is back in the past, fairly early on in the series, Reiner and Bertolt talking to each other about being Titans. Marco overhears them, and they have to silence him in some way. And then Annie gets involved in it, and effectively all they do is they just take his maneuver gear from him, which leaves him vulnerable to the Titans. They just leave him to die. I suppose the idea from their perspective is that he kind of had an opportunity to escape, but they did ultimately sacrifice him to the Titans to keep their cover. And what I liked about it is that it showed back then, and I suppose what continues to be the case, especially with, I suppose, Reiner's mental problems with the kind of dual personality. One side of him is the kind of warrior, the other one is the soldier, and just him being we have to do this, and then split cut, and he's wait, why is Marco getting eaten? As he just doesn't know that he's the one who basically ordered this to happen. The fact that Annie is extremely upset about this, Bertolt isn't saying a lot, and it sort of sets up the idea of here is Bertolt finally acting on his own in confidence for the rest of the episode. So that was really good to explain. I suppose what was one of the earlier, here's a character who's been talking a decent amount. Oh, they were killed, and we didn't see it happen. He just died off screen in a really, really brutal way. Now we see there's actually a story to it. He would have survived that battle if not for happening to overhear that. So that was, I think, a really nicely done flashback there. And then we get into the whole, when we cut back, obviously this is where they reveal Reiner's head is blown up, but he's still alive somehow. Now, thankfully they do at least do the thing where he can barely move the Titan. He moves a little bit, he gets the scream, which is the signal to Bertolt. The Beast Titan throws Bertolt, who's in a barrel, into the walls, basically with the idea that he's going to do his dive bomb explosion move. But he sees Reiner and acts on his own. The idea, I think, was that the plan is that he was meant to just dive into the middle and explode everything. but he chooses to jump out of the barrel and actually help Reiner here, and then do the explosion somewhere else. So the result that Berthold gets after all of this is, they haven't really confirmed it just yet, but the idea is that most of, I suppose, the other scouts, the not important characters, so I suppose the rank and file scout members, have been killed in this attack by Berthold, which means that it's mainly the recruits, basically, our characters that we know and care about. They are left to fight the Colossal Titan on their own. That's the situation that they're left with. They can't let him, they can't retreat, they can't give any time. They have to confront Berthold right now, because again, they continue with the idea that they cannot let the horses die. If they do, they're stranded there. Even if they manage to defeat the Beast Titan and the Colossal and Armored Titan, they're still sort of trapped there, a whole country basically away from the actual safe wall, with all these Titans in between. So they're definitely in a bit of trouble here. But yeah, I suppose Berthold's kind of development here of even in the little flashback that we got to just prior to this, of them on the walls drinking the coffee, and Reiner being I've never really considered you reliable in any way. You never act on your own, you always just follow. So I did like that it was him stepping up to the plate here. He was manipulated before by Armin, by the fact that obviously we know Berthold really likes Annie, and Armin obviously says, oh, she's being tortured again, which in the past worked, but he sees through it now. Partly because the Monkey Titan, his human form, more or less calmed Berthold down about that in their kind of talk before this battle. And he's actually able to defend himself from Mikasa relatively well. I think he gets his ear chopped off or something like that, but no real damage there. He's able to keep himself composed here. So seeing a confident Berthold was actually interesting character development in a way of Reiner, who's been the leader of those two, is just completely out of action for now. But he's safe from harm because he has his Titan lying out on the ground, it's unable to move, but face up, so they can't actually attack the weak spot. It obviously sets up Berthold then going ahead to use the move. So everyone's kind of cleared out because they know it's an explosion with the big steam kind of gas explosion thing that he does. The idea is that he's basically wiped out most of the rank and file scout members. So all that's really left is Levi, Erwin, Sasha, Connie, Jean, Eren, and most of those kind of characters. I assume there's still a few more other scouts left, but the idea is that, this was a pretty devastating move. Now they're in a pretty bad situation. The Beast Titan still hasn't, moved in the battle yet, so if he begins to move, they're sort of in trouble, but they have Levi sort of held back in reserve to handle that Titan. They did also confirm in the episode that the the quadrupedal Titan is an intelligent Titan, in that it was able to talk here, and it seems to, as expected, be the sort of scout Titan. So that was interesting. I don't know if he's going to be too much of a threat in the battle or anything like that, but it's just interesting to note that there is another kind of notable Titan in play here. Beyond that, I think that was most of the episode. It was, I think really came down to 3 moments. It was the Marco flashback, I suppose the result of the last episode's attack on Reiner, and then Berthold's actions. I suppose, Armin sort of being left in charge of the group of recruits here, being so far away from Erwin, was interesting, and just continuing his sort of arc of leadership, of him having to now, I suppose, lead his classmates effectively for the first time. I thought that was an interesting position to put him in. He's still sort of panicky about the whole thing, and he sort of hesitates a lot here, but you could tell he's sort of going to get back on track here. So, I think that's everything I want to say about the episode. So in the comments, let me know what your thoughts were on this episode. Did you agree with me on the sort of sort of silliness of the whole Reiner thing and the amount of damage he took compared to the magnitude of the blast that was suffered, or what. As I said, I think beyond that moment, which I can sort of forgive the show for a little bit, I really did like the rest of the episode. So let me know your thoughts on the episode in the comments, but that's been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.